Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we got a short episode today, but an episode nonetheless, with some big speculations heading into Phase 2, the final raid logs for Phase 1 to show you where everybody ranks, some big money materials to prepare for next phase, and some more community comments from you all. My name is Sky from the Comeback Kids. This is your season of Discovery News. Sit down, grab a cup of coffee. We got a little bit to discuss today. Starting today's episode off, we have a very hot take on Gnomergan being delayed a week for Phase 2's launch. Everybody knows that when a new expansion or phase gets released for World of Warcraft, it feels like the pressure to level up quickly and progress through the content tends to build up because nobody ever wants to feel left behind. I mean, let's put it this way, from the moment Season of Discovery was released, it only took 20 hours before a team of players actually cleared Black Fathom Deeps, which is the peak endgame of Phase 1. Now, of course, this is the absolute extreme case scenario, but for the above average players who have a bit more time to play on their hands, it only took them maybe 4 or 5 days to level up and just instantly hop into BFD to clear the hardest content available. I honestly think by doing this, they cut themselves short on content that comes out from the real end game. That means farming out PvP reputation, farming out gold to get enchants, running dungeons with your guildmates so you can all acquire the best gear possible, getting all your professions ready, all to prepare for that endgame raid. It seems like a lot of the social aspects just get skipped, and I think a big part of it has to do with people not wanting to feel left behind in terms of progressing through the game. Even myself, someone who's able to play the game a good amount, it feels really bad when I see players already running around, quickly completing all of the endgame content the game has to offer. With the focal point of Season of Discovery being primarily about exploring the world, discovering new aspects of World of Warcraft, finding new features and gameplay styles, and generally just honing in on that old school MMORPG feel, it seems like rushing to the endgame kind of ruins the primary design aspect, and on the forums, we actually got something very interesting going on. A user actually created an article titled, "Delay Gnomergan by a week so we can enjoy leveling in Phase 2. He states, "Do the same thing as Wrath of the Lich King Phase 1 and delay the raid by a week so we can enjoy the leveling, the open world PvP, and finding runes before we rush into the endgame raid." He emphasizes his argument by saying, "This will also make the race to world first for Gnomergan much more interesting since it will be dependent more on player skill rather than dependent on whoever can have paid time off from their job." Now, after reading this, immediately my mind went to, what about all those players who loves to speed run to the end game? What if their preferred gameplay style is to get to the end game as quickly as possible because that's what they enjoy? Why should we hold them back? But then it actually hit me. Delaying the end game content after a new expansion or major patch release is something that Blizzard has always done. The reason for that is because they want players to participate in other forms of content, such as Mythic Plus, the PvP preseason, grouping for open world content. I mean, by allowing the raid to be open on day 1, you're cutting the content you have available in half, because the second you hop into the raid as a player, you lose all interest in grinding out pre-raid best in slot or farming reputations for gear because, I mean, I know on a bunch of my alternate characters, I didn't grind out pre-raid best in slot at all, simply because I didn't have to. I mean, I know I could hop into the raid and start getting the best gear in the game, so why would I waste my time doing that when I already completed that journey multiple times? I think this will make Season of Discovery's lifespan just a little bit longer per phase because it doesn't encourage players to rush as quickly as possible to clear the end game content. Holding it off and making it to where everyone could participate and enjoy it at the same time might not be a bad idea. I mean, we even saw over on Twitter, Agrind actually liked a post from Stay Safe asking if Gnomergan should be delayed by a week so that people will have more time to level up and experience Season of Discovery. So it definitely shows that they're keeping an eye on what the community wants. So, what do you all think? You think they should delay Gnomergan a week? You think it's not fair to the players who like to speed run and get to max level as soon as possible? Or do you think Season of Discovery should be about taking your time, having fun, exploring, and finding all the new features in the game? Let us know in the comment section below because I'm sure they're paying attention. As we know, heading into the next phase, every class is also going to get a couple new slots to insert rune sockets into. With that being known, this leads people to speculate and wonder what could be coming, and over on Wowhead, it seems like they already have a rune wish list you can actually go check out. Some of the most notable were Eclipse and Tree of Life for Druid, Lock and Load and Coordinated Assault to help out Melee Hunter, Arcane Barrage and Water Elemental for Mage, Divine Steed and Aura Mastery for Paladin, Mind Spike for Priest, Roll the Bones for Rogue, Hand of Gul'dan and Havoc for Warlock, Bladestorm for Warrior, and finally, an interesting one was Sundering for Shaman, which is a two-handed enhancement ability only. There are some pretty cool ideas here, and it's definitely worth checking out. But I will say, when it comes to the new runes and abilities coming out as we start heading into the new phases, I'm really hoping they don't simply just copy and paste what we've already seen before in different iterations of World of Warcraft. I mean, for example, right now, you can look at Retribution Paladins. They're pretty much just got their entire toolkit from Wrath of the Lich King, which is just kind of a safe route to take. I don't think it's too exciting. I mean, I love the creativity of brand new spells and specs coming into the game, like tanking warlocks, mages that can heal, shaman tanking, all the new spells we haven't seen before, like Living Flame from Mage or Homunculi from Priest. I really hope they just stick to the pattern of bringing brand new, never-before-seen spells and effects into the game as Season of Discovery continues. So hopefully, that's the route they go. Speaking of the next phase, we actually wanted to break down the ending parses for Phase 1 because I don't see them doing any more class changes until Phase 2 kicks in. Starting off with the biggest changes on the logs, being now that Destruction Warlock and Fire Mages above the 90th percentile are now beating Ret Paladins in terms of DPS. Not only that, it seems like Arcane Mage is creeping up slowly and starting to pick up pace with the Living Flame buff they acquired a few weeks ago. Something that is very fascinating is if you even check out the DPS charts after the nerfs to Hunters, melee Hunters in particular dropped over 5 points total, taking them from near the top in terms of DPS to now dropping them down to just about middle of the pack. So those changes to the Beast Mastery rune not too long ago is something that is really affecting them greatly. We also have, of course, Warrior now staying on top of the DPS meters, with Rogue being a close second. And the thing is that Warrior and Rogue are only going to continue to scale and become way more powerful as they acquire more gear and talents, so I don't see this changing anytime soon heading into the next phases. Of course, talking about the good classes, we also have to bring about the poor ones, being Balanced Druid, Enhancement, and Elemental Shaman, as well as Shadow Priest and Frost Mages, and they are still at the bottom of the logs, and it should stay that way as we begin to head into next phase. There are some notable changes, though, coming into all these classes as we head into Phase 2, with Balanced Druid, for example, having Moon Fury as well as Moon Conform, Elemental Shaman having Elemental Fury and Lightning Mastery, Shadow Priest gets Shadow Form and Shadow Weaving, so there are a lot of things that can turn these specs around. It is going to be very interesting to see how they perform in Phase 2. Overall, though, I still think that there is going to be a clear-cut difference in between how powerful physical damage dealers are compared to casters, simply because of things like spell rankings constantly interfering with DPS, the lack of spell hit, and consistent spell damage on gear and other factors. So I'm hoping Blizzard can sort of address and maybe clean up this aspect, at least in terms of PvE for Season of Discovery, because at the moment it's pretty much whoever has the better rune design based around pure damage is just going to deal more damage. I don't know. I also think that one last key design feature they can take into consideration is to try and hold back as much as they can on nerfing classes simply because other classes are underperforming, because nothing feels worse than when your class is doing great and everything feels awesome, the rotation's fun, the damage is good, and then out of nowhere you go up on the forums and you see that you're getting the nerf stick. I mean, I know a big key point at the BlizzCon showcase for Season of Discovery was to try and make every class feel more overpowered rather than just nerfing the best ones like Warriors. And the sad truth is, right now, at the moment, Warriors are on top with Rogues once again, so I really hope this is something they can address and it doesn't become a laughingstock meme in the future. I don't know. Speaking of the future, what classes do you guys think will be broken inside of Phase 2? What classes do you think would be weak? What do you plan on playing? Let us know in the comments section below. Speaking of the next phase, we also just wanted to break down some of the best and most valuable consumables and materials heading into next phase, or even some that you can farm right now. As you know, there could be brand new consumables and crafted items with Phase 2 being introduced, but of course we don't know anything about those just yet. Just remember that all your professions will be capped at the skill level of 225, and you cannot learn anything beyond that. If you want a very simple version of this, we made a list of it actually on a Google Doc spreadsheet below, so if you want to just save it or take a screenshot, go ahead and go check that out. Starting off, the items that we estimate that will be the most expensive and are definitely going to be your Fire Protection Potion or your Nature Protection Potions. We aren't exactly sure what is going to be most needed inside of Gnomergan just yet, but one of these is going to be needed for clearing the raid much easier, just like we did for BFD with Shadow Protection Potions. So if you're looking to craft these in the next phase, you can even start preparing right now. You can go ahead and farm out these flame sacks from the whelps inside of wetlands, the strangle kelp inside of the water, just about anywhere you go find water, even life root as well. I mean, all of these should shoot up in price drastically as the first week of Gnomergan actually arrives, and you should make a pretty penny if you start crafting before everyone else does. Next up, you also have Khadgar's Whisker, which can be made to make the best healing and mana potions in the game, which next phase are going to be very, very valuable. Then you also have crucial items for leveling your blacksmithing as well as engineering, like the countless iron and heavy stone you're going to need. And what I think will be in constant demand is going to be your solid stone, which can be used to create the best bombs and sapper charges in the game, which is going to be very, very sought after for dealing high damage in raids as well as PvP. If you guys want, just go check out that Google Doc spreadsheet below to get a clean-cut screenshot if you want to just save it. Moving on now to the community part of our video, we just want to quickly state how grateful we are to be able to make Season of Discovery content for you all. I mean, our channel has grown over 10,000 subscribers since we've started this journey a little over a month ago, and we absolutely could not do it without you all liking, commenting to support the YouTube algorithm, because it truly helps a lot more than you know. Thank you all so much. We have some very big news to announce soon, so I hope you all stay tuned. Our first comment comes from the user Shauf3481, stating, kind of hoping they release some info on the Gnomergan raid. If the bosses are all mechs or elementals and are immune to bleeds and poisons, some classes will be having a rough time. I mean, I already know right off the bat that if a lot of the bosses in there are immune to bleeds and poisons, warriors and rogues in particular are going to be getting hit very, very hard. I mean, warriors right now, the reason why they're topping the meters is because of deep wounds, and rogues are doing so much damage because of Saber Slash and double procking their poisons off of Deadly Brew. I mean, not only that, you also have the Feral Mangle debuff that increases the damage of bleeds. I mean, I'm hoping this isn't the case, because it always does feel kind of crappy to fight a mechanical creature in WoW, and you can't even really do half your rotation because of that. So it is going to be interesting to see how this is handled heading into next phase. We also have B. Marty stating, add enchanting vellums. Make selling enchants better than standing around Stormwind or Darnassus for hours. And now I do gotta agree, this is way better for making gold, because all my mage does sometimes when I'm bored, I'll just sell enchants as well as conjured food and water. But I already know what they would say probably to this would be getting into a group and interacting with players is part of the classic experience, and that's something they just don't want to take away. But I don't know, to be honest, in my opinion, I personally think that vellums are good for the game, and I think it makes getting enchants a lot more accessible to some of those players who may not know too much about the game. All I know is that it's a lot more streamlined, and it makes the whole process a lot easier, so personally, I would prefer it and definitely like it in the game. We also have Thank You Green Rich stating, I would rather everything feel broken than everything feel weak. This is Rich's response to them actually continuously nerfing class specs that feel too strong right now, rather than buffing some of the weaker ones to keep everything in line. For example, Hunters got their 6th nerf in a row since the launch, so that is very, very tough for Hunter mains out there. And I do gotta hand it to you, man. I agree. I think they should be buffing classes like Shadow Priest, Elemental Shaman, Enhancement Shamans, Boomkins to really bring the classes in line, rather than nerfing Warrior, Rogue, and Hunter over and over and over again. Because if you keep on nerfing the really strong specs to make them feel worse, then pretty much all the classes will just feel boring, stale, and make all the classes feel weak. I don't know. I feel like that's just a bad way to sort of handle it, especially since Season of Discovery is a temporary, you know, seasonal thing. In my opinion, I would prefer them to make every class a lot stronger to really balance everything out, because that would seem more in line with everything that's going on in Season of Discovery, in the traditional sense, nerfing everything down. That's just how I feel about it. Lastly, we have Swim Freak stating, I've been saying this since its announcement, they should connect Retail and Classic Plus through the Void or Time Dragons. It would explain why there is new, and even some places, slight differences than original vanilla. I think it's really cool that they can connect it cleverly without ruining the classic experience. I know for some of you, it's going to kill you to hear me say this out loud, but I absolutely hope Retail World of Warcraft becomes super, super successful. Now, am I asking for them to bring a bunch of retail changes into Classic? No, not at all, but I think that Season of Discovery can be the perfect blend between the two, and potentially change people's minds against this internal civil war World of Warcraft has had over the last 6 years of Classic versus Retail World of Warcraft. But whether you want to hear it or not, ladies and gentlemen, Season of Discovery is the absolute perfect segue and middle ground between both of those versions of WoW, and it's really why it's so great. Not only that, the stories of both versions of WoW are incredibly deep, and I hope they keep going with this Xalatath implications that they've been pushing out with the story of the Void Touch loot from BFD and the way you acquire it, you know, also through Hillsbrad, through the Giant Light Shard. I mean, they have something very similar going on in Retail World of Warcraft right now with the Arathi, and personally, I'm really hoping they continue pushing this story segment. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, leave a comment below for me to respond to live here on these news videos to have a little bit of a discussion point and talk about it. I would love to see your opinions on some of the topics in these videos below, so if you want your voice to be heard, let me know all about it. Once again, sorry about the short video. I know we got like 2 or 3 weeks until the next phase comes out, so I'm trying to scrap up all the news and updates and guides that I can for you all. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like and subscribe to get absolutely flooded with Season of Discovery content. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. It is an absolute pleasure to be making content for you all. Till the very end, my name is Sky from the Comeback Kids. I will see you all in the next one. Peace.